Hey Digidestined, it's Tai from Digimon. Make sure you subscribe to Dimsy's domain for the best Digimon content.
The Darkness of Nidhoggmon, TK and Kari, the Guardian Angels, Omnimon's second appearance, Devimon meets Tai and Matt. These are the headlines coming out of this week's episode of Digimon titled Countdown to Tokyo's Annihilation. So let's look at the good, the bad, and the straight up ugly from this week's episode of Digimon Adventure 2020. Let's start off with the good. We got a lot to get through, so let's start off from the beginning of the episode. The countdown that we saw from last week's episode is now on everyone's phones with an electric surge shocking both the real world and the digital world. As we all know, whenever there is an electrical surge, it usually means that Digimon is digivolving. Energy is being absorbed through the tunnel above the digivolving Orochimon. Whilst that's happening, all the phones owned by the citizens of Tokyo are burning up like a toaster. The Black Death appears, Nidhoggmon, and he takes over Izzy's laptop. Unlike Orochimon, who was sending emails to Izzy's laptop, Nidhoggmon took over and was doing voice calls through his laptop, explaining how he is a mega level Digimon, which gets the team all shaken up. Nidhoggmon kinda looks like Perfect Chaos in his final form from the Sonic Adventure 1 game. He has that endgame monster feel to him, but I'll admit guys, I do prefer Orochimon's design over Nidhoggmon. Nidhoggmon looks quite generic. I mean, he still has that threatening look, but he was quite basic really in terms of design. But that's just my opinion. We see the magic feather appearing, and what they also showed us here is that TK was looking deep into his phone and he was able to see his brother Matt. I truly believe it was the power of the feather that allowed him to see what's going on in the digital world. All the network energy from Tokyo is being charged into Nidhoggmon. Izzy figures out that this Digimon is linked with Tokyo, and if the countdown hits, it will be like a nuke going off in Tokyo. Agumon can barely stand, but still, he's willing to fight. This is important because both Matt and Gabumon had to carry their partner Digimon in order to fight Nidhoggmon. If not for the divine intervention, there's no way they could have survived that fight. With hearing the news from Izzy that Tokyo could be destroyed, Matt and Tai take it upon themselves to stop Nidhoggmon. Greymon and Garurumon are unleashed. They didn't go straight into their ultimate forms, because I'm sure the lack of energy and the constant fighting in the past two episodes really is taking a toll on them. Foxfire and Mega Flame! But what do they expect? They're both champion level Digimon. How are they expecting to beat that monster if they were struggling against Icemon and Orochimon just before? TK and Kari received the Feathers of Hope and Light, which activated a protective sphere to release the Great One, Omnimon. I love how Kari and TK are the ones taking care of their older brothers, Matt and Tai. It's like the roles have reversed from previous seasons, when Tai and Matt would literally fight their own friends to protect Kari and TK. But here, even at the start of the season against Agumon, Kari and TK, with their feathers, protected their brothers to unleash Omnimon back then. And the same thing is happening here. This makes them feel more like a big deal now. They really are guardian angels in this show, which makes sense because who their partner Digimons are. The kids near Kari were making these scared faces. Were they able to see the fight as well alongside Kari and TK? Is this just a kid thing when only kids can see the Digimon? That's the question I'm asking you guys, so please comment down below what you guys think. Nidhoggmon uses orange fire beams, but Omnimon's cape actually made a force field to deflect it. Normally he uses his sword to deflect enemy attacks, so it was quite cool to see Omnimon actually using his cape as a shield, making the cape useful in battle. Omnimon deflected all the mini beams with his sword and started using a barrage of attacks with his cannon, freezing Nidhoggmon. But it does nothing. Nidhoggmon breaks the ice. Nidhoggmon then releases this massive energy beam. It's like an attack from the sun, it was so bright. But the Great One, Omnimon, is still standing strong with his cape. Omnimon is basically Superman or Supermon. Whenever there's a massive threat, give him a ring. He will single-handedly win you the fight. I mean look, he even has a cape. You're telling me he's not Digimon's Superman? Tai and Matt's digivices were glowing, both the Friendship Blue and the Orange Courage. I think when two partner Digimon DNA digivolve, then the color of the partner Digimon Digidestined's crests will appear on the digivice. I like this because it could also mean that because the Digimon have DNA digivolved, the power of the crest could be shared as well to both Matt and Tai, as we saw both colors on both of their digivices. Look back in Adventure 02, when XVmon and Stigmon DNA digivolved for the first time into Pyldramon. Davis said that he could hear Ken's heart beating. So it's not only the partner Digimon combining together, the two Digidestined involved are also synchronized, sharing the best traits of each other. Here we saw both of them displaying courage against what seemed like an unstoppable foe when only these two characters were the only ones standing up against Nidhoggmon, even though their partner Digimon are completely exhausted. We also saw friendship as both Tai and Matt were looking out for each other and had each other's backs. So it could be that both of them were sharing their crests as well with each other. As a result of both of them combining their best abilities, Omnimon's sword was coated with a shining divine energy. He then slices Nidhoggmon in half, just like how Zoro from One Piece sliced Pika in the Dressrosa arc, and they did it with 6 seconds to spare. Everything's back to normal. All the people of Tokyo and their phones have returned to normal. The power and electricity is all back, so hopefully no more fires at the top of a building. Kari says to her mom that Tai is okay. She had a feeling. While she said that, she received her feather of light. I'm sure she actually saw that Tai was okay, just like earlier on in the episode when TK saw his brother. I'm sure Kari actually saw Tai there. Omnimon cuts through the fake Tokyo, but the countdown still went through. Unfortunately for our team, we see a mysterious Digimon with a golden eye appear, and he unleashed a devastating sandstorm, separating the team once again. Apart from Tai and Matt, Evil then shows his face. Devimon appears, shape-shifting through the sand. One thing he said that caught my eye was the human world is theirs to feed. What does that mean? Do they actually feast upon the humans, or do they feast upon the network energy coming from the real world? Because technology is so advanced nowadays, phones are basically a mini laptop. We saw Nidhoggmon absorb the energy from the real world to get stronger, and at the time he was digivolving from Orochimon, so the energy they steal from the real world could also even help them digivolve to a higher level. But this is my take on it. Again, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. That was the good part of the review. Now let's go over the bad. I think this was the perfect opportunity to bring out Wargreymon and Metagarurumon. It was tailor-made for it. Back in the original, when Agumon and Gabumon first digivolved to Mega, they had to fight Venom Myotismon, who was a killer giant endgame monster. And they used TK and Kari's arrows of hope and light in order to digivolve into their mega forms. They could have done it like that here as well. In this episode, just like in the original, they're fighting an endgame giant monster, Digimon, and you had both TK and Kari receive the feathers of hope and light. They even showed the crests when they touched the feathers, and instead of getting Omnimon again, we could have had the megaforms combining their strengths in order to beat Nidhoggmon, because last time all the Ultimates had to work together to beat Orochimon. The problem with Omnimon is that he makes Agumon and Gabumon's megaforms obsolete. What's the point of seeing Wargreymon and Metagarurumon when we can go straight into Omnimon? Omnimon should only be used in the most rarest and extreme situations. Why do you think his appearance in our wargame worked so well and is so iconic to this day? Because throughout the film, Wargreymon and Metagarurumon are giving it their all to defeat Diaboromon. They both even attempted to fight the millions of Diaboromon copies by themselves, even though that is basically suicide. They both got blasted to bits, and we all thought that they were dead, and then it happened. The Great One appeared and destroyed all of them. That's what made it so epic. Wargreymon and Metagarurumon had to literally die in order to get Omnimon, but now we're getting him so easily and not making any use of Wargreymon and Metagarurumon. Omnimon's appearance should always be special. He should be there only at the brink of death. I get why they did it early on in the season to create buzz, and it worked, but here I would have rather have seen Wargreymon and Metagarurumon. Nothing in this episode warranted going into the ugly section of my review, and I'm not saying bringing out Omnimon was bad. I just would have preferred to see the other two instead. But overall, it was still a good episode of Digimon. If you enjoyed this review, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Guys, we will be working on the Digimon Last Evolution Kizuna review, so hit the notification bell to watch it as soon as it's released. And as always, care for nothing.